Good Monday morning, everyone. It is time to move on with this sign. So, I have really bitten off more than I can chew here. So, and let me tell you why. So we've got our piece of redwood. So what I've done here is I've surfaced it down on all four sides, and then I went to kind of measure it. Now, what my plan is to take my pine. These are all off the clamps. I got to clean these up and miter the ends and have them go around the ends mitered. And I am not a fine furniture maker like I'm making this sign for 3 fine furniture makers. And I have so much respect for you guys that have the equipment and can do this kind of thing. I am going to attempt it with the crude tools that I have. So I got to tell you, I've got a jointer that has never been like calibrated. It's just right out of the box. It's a rigid jointer. It's always worked good for what I needed it for. I've got like a cheap rigid table saw, just a little 10-inch portable table saw, and I've got a fairly inexpensive radial arm saw. So my tools are not really geared for doing what I'm trying to do with it. So just in the making and the squaring up of this board, I spent about an hour this morning because my radial arm saw wasn't square. But I have to say that based on what I've done, let me move this over so you can see. Based on what I've done, I've got pretty close to a good 90-degree angle on this. I'll flip that over so you can see. It's pretty close. I don't know how it's going to come out, but I had to actually kind of recalibrate my my radial arm so that it would do what I wanted it to do. I don't have one of those fancy sleds for my table saw. So anyway, to get these ends square and get this all surfaced down, it was a job in itself. So now I've got to work on the pine. I'm going to go ahead and surface this pine. Now what my plan is, just to get some kind of a decent edge. Now the cool thing about this is I've got a lot of thickness to work with here. These are about, I think this is down to like an 1 3/8 now, and these are 1 3/4. So I got quite a bit of thickness to work with. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to probably sand down one of these surfaces to try and get it somewhat close, and then use my jointer and my thickness planer to get all this glue off, and then I will attempt to miter these corners at a 45 and get it to match up. So wish me luck. So we will be back in a few minutes, or in a minute for you. For me, it'll probably be 3 hours, but we'll be back and we'll see how I do on this. All right, so we're moving on. So here's what I've done, guys. I've milled down all the pine using the jointer. Actually, I sanded off one surface first. Then I ran it through one surface through the jointer, and then I ran it through my thickness planer to get everything milled down to the same size. So then what I did was I put these in place where I think that they're going to fit the best. Now, the reason I did this, let me show you, especially on this end. This is, if you can see that, babe, this is a really nice matchup when I put that up against there. It's got a really nice seam, but when I turn it around and put it that side, you can see that it just doesn't match up real well. So I'm not sure what happened on that, but I definitely know that that's the edge that's got a really nice fit to it. So I did that same thing all the way around. So you can see this is marked right, my right, obviously, right, and arrow pointing in, and I did that same thing and found my best match. That's the thing that I kind of learned, guys, is you cannot rush into something like this. You have to take your time and figure everything out. So if I were to flip this one around, you can't see that seam. It's okay, but this is actually the best seam. It's a best fit. So I did that all the way around. Now the real moment of truth is going to come into play. So I've done that as well here. So now I've got to take my measurements, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a 2x4 and I'm going to cut pieces for all of this whole thing out of scrap 2x4 to make sure that my measurements are correct. So, you know, they always say measure twice, cut once. Well, I'll probably measure 17 times, cut once, because I only got one shot at this and I want to do it right. So I'm going to cut, I'm going to mess with 2x4s first, get those exactly the right size, then it's going to be easy to match up. But first thing I need to do is my radial arm saw. The way I calibrated it at a perfect 90, now I got to go back and move that thing and calibrate it at perfect 45 using my my little square deal there. And so wish me luck. By the time we get back here, it'll probably be another couple hours, and hopefully I'll have all these pieces cut to size, and then we'll glue the whole thing together. So we'll be right back. All right, folks. Well, I decided rather than use 2x4s, I decided, you know, I didn't have to go full thickness. So I went ahead and just made it out of 1/2 inch MDF, basically my pattern pieces. So what I did was I took my my pine and I ripped it. I ripped my 1/2 inch MDF. Let me get that off of there. 1/2 inch MDF, the same width as that, so that it'll match up. And then what I did also that I didn't even think about until after the camera was off is I had to mill this stuff down so it's basically the same thickness, because once this is all, this I ran through my 12-inch thickness planer, but once these are on there, the way it was sticking up on the last scene, it was about a 1/4 inch too tall. I had to mill these down, so I milled down the back side so that it's the same thickness. So once it's all glued up, all I got to do really is sand it. Anyway, so those are my pieces. It doesn't fit absolutely perfectly, but it's as perfect as I can get it. So it's been about 2 hours since the last scene. So now I've got my pieces here, and I will attempt to duplicate these sizes in my pine. Wish me luck. I'll be back. All right, folks, here we are. This is basically what I had in mind. When I thought it was going to be a challenge, actually it was like 10 times what I thought it would be from a challenge standpoint. It's no doubt that I am not a furniture maker, but I think it's going to be okay. I'm trying to take my own advice when I tell you guys to cut yourself some slack.
He's not doing very well.
I'm kind of being hypocritical because I can see every little mismatch. But anyway, I don't think it's going to be, I don't have glue in it right now. I just clamped it up. What I'm going to do is off camera, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take this apart, throw the glue on it, clamp it back up, and then on the next scene, we'll pull it off the clamps and see what it looks like. But anyway, yeah, I don't have the right equipment really to do this correctly, or really close tolerances like the fine furniture guys do and gals. So anyway, but I think it's going to be okay, and I'm going to do a special border around here. So anyway, on the next scene you'll see me taking this off the clamps, which will be tomorrow morning. So anyway, wish me luck on the glue up, guys. We'll see you in the next scene. All right, it is the next morning. I just took the board off the clamps. I'm not totally unhappy with it. There's some of the seams that I'm not crazy about, but I think it'll be okay. I'm going to sand it. So this is just off the clamps right now.
Can you hold it up so we can?
Yeah, I'm going to sand it down front and back. Probably putty up a few of the seams that have some gaps in there, and kind of see. Now, if you notice right here and right here, you'll see those little circles. Those were extra little clamps that I put on there to try and get it to kind of even up. And what I did there is I put a piece of packing tape down so that the clamp wouldn't, and you've seen me do that on some of my pieces before, and I just put a piece of that 2-inch clear packing tape down, and it actually worked really well. It didn't stick at all, and the packing tape peeled right off. So that's a tip that actually worked out pretty well for me. So anyway, the back actually, the seams on the back actually came out a little bit better. So I'm going to rough sand this thing down. I'm going to putty it, then I'm going to finish sand it, and we're going to see how it comes out. So we'll be back and see what the finished board looks like. Okay, here we go. So I have I've sanded this board down pretty much. I used like a 40 grit and then an 80 grit, and I got it sanded down to where it's pretty good. And I'm really happy with the seams so far. I haven't even used any putty, and I don't think I'll need to use but hardly just a little tiny bit. But both the front and the back, I like the way it's coming out so far. So now we get into the fun part. This was the agonizing part. Now, for me, at least for me, now we're going to get into the fun part. So here's again the logo that I'm going to blow up and put on here. So you guys are seeing this on Monday. Like I mentioned before, Wednesday's video will be about dull router bits. And then Friday's video will be a large sign carvers of the day. So a week from today, we'll carry on with this project, get this thing routed, and get it going. So I'm really excited about doing this. And thank you again to Jeremy for reaching out, and to Sam and Drew. I hope I can make you a nice sign, guys. It's something that you'll be happy with and proud of. So everybody have a great weekend. And oh, wait a minute. Yeah, I guess the weekend's already over for you guys. I'm actually filming this on Friday. So I hope you guys like this video. And Vicki and I are going to be gone all week next week over in California. And maybe we'll get some film when we're over there. I'm not sure yet. But anyway, we'll see you guys soon. So Wednesday, don't forget, you're really going to like this video. It's very short, but it's about how you tell your router bits are dull. So I hope you guys like it. Everybody, we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.